Hello and welcome. Today we are taking a look at a whole bunch of new releases. So we have the new Tom Ford Olive Smoke eyeshadow palette. I did also order Peach Glamour. That one hasn't shipped yet, but this one has arrived, so we'll talk about that. I also have all of the new Guerlain Be Glow Pearly lip balms along with the lip primer. I purchased 2 of the new YSL blushes, and I've been wearing these for a while now. And by a while, I mean about a week. And then in addition, we have the new version of Chanel Le Volume de Chanel mascara. So they did reformulate this. So I've been using this for just over 2 weeks. So we'll be talking about that. Let's go ahead. We're going to start off with the eyeshadow. So I have been waiting for this eyeshadow palette to come out. I love greens. I love the Tom Ford Creme eyeshadow formula. And I have to say, this formula definitely does not disappoint. So these 3 shades here, the 3 lighter shades, they feel incredibly creamy and smooth and silky. This deeper shade here feels a little bit more putty-like. It's a little drier than the other 3, but they all perform beautifully. And actually, I like that deep one being a little bit more, just being a little bit drier because it makes it a little bit easier to target your application for that. Whereas the smoother ones, they just blend out so easily. It's easier to make a mess. So we have kind of like a burnished gold. Then we have a golden brown, followed by this mossy green. You can see that the mossy green still has little hints of golden shimmer in it. And then our last shade here, looks like black, but I think it's got some really deep brown in there. It's one of those brown blacks. It's more black than brown, but there is a little bit of brown in there. So overall, it is a warm tone palette. And I do think it's absolutely beautiful though. If you love greens and golds, this is a great one. And I have a bunch of comparisons that we're going to look at with this. But first, let's take a look at the eye swatches. So this palette, along with the Peach Glamour, have been popping up at Cosbar, and they basically sell within minutes. I usually don't even have the time to post it. And so I was lucky enough to be able to order them on separate days, but they are going in and out of stock. We should see them available at additional retailers relatively soon. The quad, it retails for $95 US. So again, there has been a price increase. It's made in Italy, and we have 5.2 grams of product and a 1-year shelf life. And as I mentioned, I do have quite a few of the creme formula quads, and I think that this formula is one of the best that they have on the market now. My favorite has always been the wet dry formula, and I feel like the creme is right up there with that version in terms of quality. So I do really like these. They're very thin on the eyes. It's a cream, so it's silky smooth, but it has a bit more of a silicone texture to the cream, so you can keep that very thin. You don't have any gathering in fine lines. It stays put pretty well on the eyes. I don't really have an issue with these creasing, and I think it's a beautiful formula. So this particular one is definitely going to be a warm color story. Our first 2 shades, we have kind of that burnished gold and then the brown and gold. It's a golden brown. Those are definitely going to be fairly warm. The golden brown is slightly cooler than the first shade, which definitely has more of that, like, to me, it reminds me of 1920s gold. And then our green, this is stunning, and you can lighten this up by mixing it with the lighter shade there or one of the others. You can deepen it with mixing it with the dark brownish black shade there. But if you use it just on its own, it's kind of like a deep emerald moss with a touch of golden shimmer in there. So there is going to be a little bit of micro glitter in that shade. The only shade that doesn't have any shimmer is going to be your deepest, which is a black with just a tiny, tiny touch of brown in it. Again, it's going to be mostly black. And that shade is slightly drier, but it's still a cream formula. And if you use any of the ones that launched initially, some of those formulas were a little bit drier than what we have in our first 3 shades here. And they're much more similar to the black shade in this one. So just something to note there. I do feel like the first 3 lighter shades there are just slightly, they're a little bit smoother and more moist than some of the other creme eyeshadow quads that I have, but they perform so beautifully. And yeah, you know, I think this one's really going to depend on whether or not you are interested in this color story. It's really beautiful, but we have seen this color story before. So let's move on to some comparisons. Now, a couple of years ago, we did get kind of an influx of these green gold eyeshadow palettes. One of the ones that first came to mind, actually, which I do not have anymore, is that old Charlotte Tilbury quad. It was like, I forget what the original name was, but then they changed it to like Green Eyes or something like that. And it had the green and the gold. I don't have that quad any longer. It's from several years back. But that color story really reminds me very strongly of this one. So I'm going to first start off with, this is our new one, the Olive Smoke. And this is Velour Khaki, which is also the creme formula. And this came out a year or 2 ago. And, you know, you can still find this around sometimes, but it has been harder to find. And yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at this one. It is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to put these side by side so you can see how they compare. Our first shade here, you can see is a little bit peachier than the golden hue that we have. Plus, this one's matte. Our second shade is going to be cooler, and it's going to be more of a gray. And then we have kind of like a mossy green, and well, they're both a little bit mossy, but you can see that this one here, our third shade, has a little bit more brown in there, and it's a little bit deeper. It's kind of like a softer version of this one without the gold in there, whereas this is going to be a little bit brighter, and we have just a little bit more of that moss hue to it. Overall, the Velour Khaki color story is going to be very similar to the new one. However, our new one is going to be shimmery, and that's going to be our major difference there. So we do have, you know, slightly different tones in there. We don't have quite as deep of a shade in the Velour Khaki, but it's still going to be fairly similar overall. I also wanted to just take a look at a few shades from the Byredo Mineralscapes palette, because I know for me, this was a favorite last year, and I know a lot of people picked this one up. So we're going to start with these 2 greens right up here at the top to see how those compare. You can see that this one here is going to be the closest. So that's this shade right here. But it is still going to be lighter. It doesn't have as much of that emerald hue in there. And then let's take a look at these 2 golden hues here. There's this one, and this one's going to be more beige. Much lighter. So this will give you kind of a lighter look, but you can still get similar tones to it, just on a lighter scale than the Velour Khaki. Than the Olive Smoke. This one here is Cle de Peau number 10, Seagrass. So I thought this one would be worth looking as well. Again, we're going to have kind of a lighter color story, and we have a little bit more teal in here. And you can see that the greens in this one actually lean much more brown than what we have in Olive Smoke. So they're actually pretty different. And then super old palette, but this is still my favorite Chanel eyeshadow palette that I've ever purchased. This is Empreinte du Désert, and this came out 2016. I always remember that it was the year my daughter was born. So I just want to go ahead and share this one because I use this sparingly because it's my favorite. Our green in here is going to be brighter, but again, we have kind of a similar brown shade here. Our gold's brighter, our green's brighter, and then our deep shade here is going to be pretty similar. So you can see that we definitely have a similar color story, but the new Olive Smoke is going to be a little bit warmer and deeper overall. All right, a few more we're going to look at. This is Transcendent from Byredo, and this just recently came out, and you know what? I have to say, this second shade here is actually already getting hard pan, so not huge on that there. But this color story is, we've got a lot of greens here. A lot of these are similar on the eyes, but you can see that we don't have any similar shade to what we have in the Tom Ford. And then we have a burgundy there. So you can see, again, this is going to be more mossy, more brownish green than what we have with Olive Smoke, which all of the colors are going to be a little bit more distinct. We have some browns, we have golds, we have greens. Which brings me to this Dior Backstage palette. And this was holiday a couple of years ago. This is number 8 Khaki Neutrals. And we're just going to we'll take a look at these 2 greens here. And then this brown in the middle. You know what? Let's take a look at this gold here too. So we've got a very yellow gold. Then this brownish shade here. Let's make that a little darker. This is going to be more of a light golden beige. And then we have these 2 greens. This one's gonna be brighter and lighter. This is deeper and more of a true like evergreen. And then let's just take a look at this brown here as well. We'll put this one right here. And that's gonna be more of a true mid-tone brown. A couple more. Also from that same holiday, we have Bobbi Brown Jade Stone palette. So if you have this one in your collection, let's take a look. We're gonna start off with the deep green that is in the top row. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll take a look at this green here in the bottom row as well. And I'm going to re-swatch the Tom Ford right down here in just a minute. But let's take a look here at this brown shade here. And this is more of a chartreuse. And we'll also take a look at this peachy shade here. But these are not going to be quite as similar. This peachy shade is going to be definitely more peach than what we have in the Olive Smoke, but it's still closer. So here's Olive Smoke one more time. Let me just go ahead and we're just gonna put those right here and see how these compare. I have one more palette. So again, this is Bobbi Brown Jade Stone, which I think is actually closer to Olive Smoke than the Dior Backstage in Khaki Neutrals, or this was the Byredo Transcendent. This one here was the Cle de Peau number 10 Seagrass, and this one was the Byredo Mineralscapes. Then we have Tom Ford Velour Khaki, Olive Smoke, Chanel Empreinte du Désert. Last up, let's take a look at a NARS palette. And this is the NARS Climax palette, which I think is actually a really, really great palette. We're going to take a look at this shade, this one, and see how these compare. And I'm just going to put these right up here. You can see that's more champagne. This is more peach than the gold there, but it's relatively close. And then this green here is actually a little smokier. We got a little bit more blue-gray in it, whereas this is going to be a little bit more, yellow gold mixed with a brighter green. So I hope that was helpful. One more time, let's just go through these swatches. Chanel Empreinte du Désert, Tom Ford Olive Smoke, Tom Ford Velour Khaki. This is NARS Climax, Tom Ford Olive Smoke. Down here from the bottom, we have Bobbi Brown Jade Stone. This is Dior Backstage in Khaki Neutrals, Byredo Transcendent. This one is Cle de Peau Seagrass, and this is Byredo Mineralscapes. So I hope that was helpful. Out of all of these palettes, I think the one that's actually the closest in tone would be the Bobbi Brown Jade Stone, but you can definitely get very similar looks using any of these products, in my opinion. While we're talking about eyes, let's go ahead and take a look at the new Chanel Le Volume de Chanel mascara. So this has been reformulated. You can see the packaging has been updated. We have our Chanel logo on the top, and this does come in 3 colors. I have the brown, which is a coarse, and look at this bristle, or the brush head. So you can see that our brush head, we do have a new brush head design. Let's take a look at the demos while we talk about this. So this mascara retails for $40 US, and it was kind of a quiet rollout. You would see it pop up marked new, but there was really no, information about it at the time. We do have 3 shades. There's black, blue, and brown. And again, I have the brown A course, which is number 80. It has a 6-month shelf life, which is standard for mascaras. It's made in France, and we have 6 grams of product. And I have been testing this out for a couple of weeks. So just a little information from Chanel here. According to Chanel, this innovative high precision mascara achieves instant volume and intense color in a single stroke for longer, thicker looking lashes. Natural waxes deliver volume, while rapid drying acacia gum sets and intensifies the curl. Film-forming agents preserve suppleness and help build volume evenly. A Chanel exclusive brush combines long and short bristles for an extreme eye-opening effect. The previous version of the Chanel Le Volume de Chanel mascara was incredible. It was definitely a favorite for many, many people. I have to say, I really love this new version. So I feel like they're pretty different from each other though. For me, the formula does feel a little bit thicker, a little heavier on the lashes. However, it goes on very easily and it sets really, really well. There's no flaking, there's no smudging. You can rub your eyes and you're not getting any flakes anywhere. But it does feel a little heavier. And what I mean by that is it feels like the formula itself that coats the lashes is a little bit thicker than the previous formula. And when you are using this, if you are looking for a curl effect on your lashes, I would definitely recommend using eyeshadow or an eyelash curler first. And then you want to apply the mascara and hold your wand up, at the tip, lifting your lashes while it kind of sets a little bit. And then that really does help keep it stay very well. But if you have, very straight lashes and curls are pretty difficult to maintain, if you don't hold that mascara there, this formula feels heavy enough that they will not hold that curl on their own. You kind of want to hold them in place while they're drying to maintain that curl. You definitely get volume with this because it is a little bit of a thicker formula in texture. When you are applying this, you can get a little bit of clumping with your lashes. Some people love that, some people don't. I do have a recommendation if you're somebody who doesn't really love that. One thing that really helps, but I almost always forget to do, is take a clean mascara wand or an eyelash comb and comb out your lashes first to make sure they're fully separated, then apply this and you get a really beautiful effect. So I would definitely recommend that. You can of course go in with a comb afterwards, but you will be removing a little bit of product at that time. But if you want full volume and really separated lashes, if you go in with that first, you'll achieve that. I have to say, I really do enjoy this mascara a lot. I'm looking forward to actually picking up the blue one next and, really using this for a long period of time. So I've used it for a couple of weeks. One thing to know, again, because the formula does feel slightly thicker to me, I feel like removal for this is not hard, but it does seem to coat your lashes a little bit more. So it does take a little bit extra time to fully remove than, your previous version or many other mascara formulas. So just something to know, it's not difficult, but it just feels like there's a little more product there. So you need to spend a little bit more time fully removing that. Overall though, I think it's a great mascara. So let's take a look at the particular shade here. You can see that the bristles here, I actually think they're really effective for coating the lashes. Again, doing swatches for mascaras is always a challenge. But you can see this is going to be a nice brown with a touch of black in it, but it's not going to be a black-brown mascara. It's really just slightly deeper than medium tone brown. I think it's a really beautiful shade. And for reference, this is the Swede Cloud Mascara in brown. So you can see the difference in the tone. The Cloud Mascara, again, doesn't swatch super well, but this is a slightly cooler, ashier brown than a coarse, which is a little bit more neutral. So let's go ahead and move on to the YSL blushes. And I've been testing these out for a few days. I love these blushes. I actually only purchased 2 because I was really hoping we get some of the other shades here in the US, but it doesn't look like they'll be coming here. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. But this one here is shade 44 Nude Lavalier. So we have 2 finishes. We essentially have a satin shimmer finish, which this one is. And then we have a matte finish. So this is 44 Nude Lavalier. You can see I have a little staining left from the eyeshadow swatches. Unfortunately, those deeper shades, they really do leave quite an impact. So then I have number 87 here, which is called Pink Voltage. So this one here is going to be your matte formula. And you can see that Nude Lavalier has a little bit of shimmer, but it's a little bit more of a kind of like a pink with a touch of rosewood in it. And our shimmer in here is actually going to be fairly neutral in tone. A lot of times we see a lot of a golden shimmer or a silver shimmer, and this is really more of a, it's kind of in between, more champagne-ish. And then our Pink Voltage is definitely going to be a cooler, kind of like a bright bubblegum pink. So between the two, Nude Lavalier is warmer, but it's actually a pretty neutral shade. And our Pink Voltage matte shade is going to be a bright bubblegum matte pink. Let's take a look at these on the face. So these are the YSL Make Me Blush, and they are described as a bold blurring blush. We have 6 grams of product. They retail for $45 US. We have a 2-year shelf life, and these are made in Italy. Now here in the United States, we have 7 of the 12 shades available. And unfortunately, my understanding is that the US was not slated to receive all of the shades. However, a lot of people have been requesting some of the shades that are not currently available here. And I have been told that if they get enough demand, then they will add some additional shades here to the US at a later date. But at the current time, these are the shades that are slated for the United States. You can see additional shades in other countries. Now, according to YSL, this is a velvety soft buildable blush with satin and matte finishes. It's described as a little blush in a little clutch. This iconic palm-sized powder blush feels lightweight and blurs onto cheeks, lasting 24 hours without leaving skin feeling dry. These collectible couture blushes provide a subtle, diffuse flush or can build for a full glam look. The outer packaging is going to be colored to identify the blush shade inside, which I think is really helpful, especially if you have more than just a handful of blushes that you're storing. It's really great to be able to see or get an idea of what you're getting before you pull everything out and open it up. So overall, I think these are really great blushes. The formula is velvety soft. It goes on very easily. You can dab this on, get just a light flush of color. You can buff this in and make it a little bit more pearly for the satin shimmers, or, you know, really buff that in. You can even do a little bit of underpainting if you want to put on like the blush super deep, buffed into your cheeks, and then add a little skin tint or like a lighter foundation on top. You got a really very beautiful natural look. These last all day. I have had no issues with it exacerbating any sort of lines or skin conditions. I have been going through psoriasis outbreaks. So yeah, no issues with any sort of, you know, bringing any of that stuff to attention. And they really do add a little bit of blur. Your cheeks just look, you know, they look a little bit more perfected. So I love this formula. I was really hoping to get more of the other shades that are not here in the US, but I think I'll probably cave and pick up more of the shades that are here as well. So let's take a look at just a few comparisons. And I would have to say that formula wise, these remind me a lot of a lighter, more airy version of the Valentino blushes, which I love this formula. It's such a smooth, velvety texture, but these feel a little bit more creamy per se. So this one here is shade number 3. And you can see we got like a touch of lavender in here, but you can see how this formula looks in comparison. They are going to have some similarities there. And just one more Valentino comparison here. This is shade number 4, which is a bit more of a corally shade here, and a peach. So that I feel like is a fairly similar texture to what you get from the YSL. The YSL though doesn't have as much of that creamy texture to it. It's a little bit drier, a little airier. Another similar formula are actually the Sisley Fido blushes, and this is number 1, Pink Peony. And I feel like, again, these are beautiful buffed onto the skin, but this formula here feels a little bit, the Sisley feels a little bit heavier than the YSL. So I feel like, you know, the YSL, again, is a slightly lighter version of this type of texture. Just one more Sisley one here. This is going to be number 5, Rosewood, just so you can kind of see the texture here. Now, mine are older, so they are not quite as creamy as they were when they were fresh, but again, still very similar. And this, I think this is a great blush formula, provided you apply it. I personally like it like softly buffed into the skin. So those would be my formula comparisons for the YSL. So I hope that was helpful. I would definitely highly recommend checking out the YSL blushes if there are shades that interest you. And I would say the closest runner-up formula-wise would be the Valentino blushes. So let's go ahead and move on to the new Guerlain lip products. All right, so we're going to start off with the primer here. So we have our traditional Kiss Kiss packaging here, and I'm glad that they didn't change that. We do have our B on the cap, which we have for all the lip balms. So this is a primer. It's called the B Lift. I'm going to put this one here on my hand and just kind of try to put it all over so you can see how much of a blur it gives. So this is it's essentially a matte lip balm. So let's talk about this before we move on to the actual lip balms. So the B Lift primer retails for $40 US, and it has 3.2 grams of product, and this is going to be made in France. According to Guerlain, this hydrates, smooths, and prepares lips for makeup. It's infused with honey and beeswax, and it's a universal shade. It's essentially transparent. And according to Guerlain, this primer extends your lipstick's wear and maintains its color throughout the day. And you can see here in the demos, I'm showing you what it looks like on the lips on its own, kind of just on the right side when you top it with one of the Rouge G lipsticks, and this is Rouge G number 6. So as you're looking at this, you can see when you apply the primer, you definitely get a mattified lip look. It does blur some of those lines and gives a little bit of a hazy appearance to it. So this is definitely a primer you could wear on its own, more like a matte lip balm. But I have to say, if you are not topping it with anything else, wear time is pretty short, 1 to 2 hours on this, and then it's like gone for me. So just something to note there, but it is comfortable to use that way. Now, using it with lipstick, you know, I can't say that I've noticed any, really exceptional change in my wear time for the lipstick using the primer, but I can see that when I'm topping a lipstick or topping the primer with a lipstick, I do see a little bit more blur. I see fewer lip lines with it. So it definitely helps in that respect. And I think it's actually a really nice product. It's a nice lip primer. Is it a must-have? I don't think so, but if you're looking for like a little bit of help in that area, I think this is a nice product. As for the fragrance, it is scented just like the Guerlain Kiss Kiss Be Glow lip balms, so there's no change in the actual fragrance or the intensity of the fragrance. So just something to note, because it is going to be a waxier formula, it does feel a little bit firmer to go on the lips, almost like, you know, like you're melting shea butter on your lips. So that's the texture there. It feels like the firmer waxes need to melt a little bit and glide on. So you can see that during the application, it's a little bit firmer than as we move into the lip balm. So let's take a look at the lip balms. So Guerlain has released 6 new shades of the Kiss Kiss Be Glow lip balms, which are one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love them, particularly the lavender and the blossom shade. We don't have a lavender in the new versions, but these are all going to be pearly balms, so they all have some shimmer. And this first shade here is 056, and this is going to be Pearly Lily. And you can see there's not a ton of color here, but I actually really like this one. This one is blue with a little bit of shimmer, but it adjusts to your lips pH a little bit. So I get more of a very soft, pale pink over time, but there's still a bit of that bluish vibe to it to cool it off. Next, we have 229 Pearly Blossom. And we are going to compare these after the lip swatches to the original balms as well. So this is Pearly Blossom. Really like this shade. It's really more of a soft rosewood. And then we have 358 Pearly Rose, which this one turns more of a brighter pink on my lips. And you can see it looks very pale pink here in the actual bullet, but it is going to change over time on my lips. Next, we have 389. This is Pearly Peach. And this, to me, is really more of a coral. So this turns more coral on me than peach. And you can see it's already getting a little bit pinker on my arm here. And then this one here is 558. This is Pearly Peony. And this is going to be a little bit of a brighter pink than what we have with the rose. And it's also slightly warmer in tone. Now on my lips right now, I have a mix of two. I have this one, number 878, Pearly Dahlia. I have this one on, and then I blotted it and added the Pearly Lily, the blue one that we started with. You can see how that has changed on my arm. But you can see that this Dahlia is really more of a rosewood with more of an emphasis on the wood part. It's more of a brownish rosewood, whereas our Blossom is going to be more of a pinkish rosewood. And as that shifts, we see a little bit more rose in it. Let's take a look at these on the lips. Just like the primer, these retail for $40 US. We have 3.2 grams of product. And they are made in France. So according to Guerlain, the Kiss Kiss Bee Glow, these are tinted lip balms infused with honey and made of 98% naturally derived ingredients. It revives the natural color of the lips with a touch of glowing shine by offering a 24-hour hydrating care. Creamy and addictive, its incredibly melting texture glides onto the lips for long-lasting comfort. The formula combines honey and melting active ingredients for soothed, softened, nourished, and plumped lips more beautiful day after day. They describe the finish as a syrupy, sheer finish. And I have to say, this, as I mentioned before, is one of my favorite tinted lip balms. I've been wearing these since the originals came out, and I have all of them. I love them. I still love them. I have actually purchased, I've used up the lavender one, I think twice. So it's a fantastic lip balm. If you like something that feels, it feels a little cushiony on the lips, you have a nice blend of waxes and oils there for me so that it feels very smooth and comforting, but it doesn't feel like it's sliding all over the place. So I personally really love the formula of these. We do have a soft floral fragrance to these with honey. You can smell the honey in these. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not overpowering, but it's definitely noticeable. So our new shades all have shimmer infused in them. So the originals, no shimmer. 56 Pearly Lily is a pearly natural pink. Pearly Blossom is described as a pearly rosewood. And then we have Pearly Rose, which is described as a pearly soft pink. Pearly Peach is described actually as a pearly fresh coral. I feel like they should have called it Pearly Coral instead of Pearly Peach. And then we have the Pearly Peony, which is described as a pearly bright pink, and Pearly Dahlia is described as a pearly chocolate brown. But again, there's a bit of red in there, making it more of a brownish rosewood, in my opinion, versus a chocolate brown. So let's go ahead and take a look at the comparisons of the original shades. So we're going to go in numerical order, and we're going to start off with 129 Blossom Glow. And this was one of my favorites. So we're going to compare this to the Pearly Blossom, which is number 229. So the original is 129, and now we have 229 for the Pearly version. And you can see shade-wise, they're similar, but the original Blossom is going to be a little bit peachier, a little bit more nude. It's slightly warmer overall. This one here is 258, which is Rose Glow. And this one here is our Pearly Rose, which is 358. This is pH activated, so it looks like it's going to be a clear balm, but this will turn more of a brighter pink. And I would say that the shades actually become fairly similar over time. We have 309 Honey Glow. I'm going to put this one at the bottom. This is one that I use this one a ton because it's doesn't have a ton of color, but it's really more of a soft peachy nude, but it's very light. It's a great topper shade in my opinion, or just something to help revive a lipstick if you want to add just a touch of warmth as well. So this is $3.19 Peach Glow. And this one here is our $3.89, our Pearly Peach. You can see that the Peach Glow is going to be significantly, it's more of a true peach. So it's going to be warmer. It has more orange in it. It's definitely not coral like this. And you can see the honey is going to be a little bit closer to the coral than the peach, or closer to the Pearly Peach than the, yeah. So this one here, our Honey Glow, is still going to be a little bit more nude versus our Pearly Peach. But our Peach Glow and Pearly Peach really don't match up at all. This one here is $4.09 Fuchsia Glow. So let's go ahead. We'll put this one, I'm going to kind of squeeze this one in here. Fuchsia Glow, this is going to be a little bit cooler, and we're comparing this here to $5.58, which is Pearly Peony. So you can see Pearly Peony is going to be a warmer pink. Fuchsia Glow is definitely going to be cooler in tone, a touch brighter. This one just came out last summer. It's $4.58 Pop Rose Glow. And I wanted to see how this one compared with our new one. So $4.58 is Pop Rose Glow. $5.58 is our, what is this, Pearly Peony. And you can see that these two are essentially the same shade, but the peony has shimmer. So I would say that the Pop Rose Glow is very similar, basically the same color. $7.75 Poppy Glow. We don't really have a match for this. This is really more of a soft red. I think this is such a beautiful color, and I'd love to see this in the shimmer finish because I think people who are a little afraid of red lipstick, this is a great alternative to it, or just to add a little brightness during the summer. I love that shade. And then we have 809 Lavender Glow, which is my favorite. And you can see I'm actually going to be needing another new one of these relatively soon. But this one here is going to be kind of like a pinkish purple. We definitely have that purple hue to it, but we definitely have pink in there as well. So it's cool tone, but it's not too blue. And yet it's not so pink that it doesn't look purple. So again, these will give you just a hint of color on the lips. And yeah, I love them. So these are the originals versus our pearly finish. And you can see that the shimmer in these, it's finely milled. You don't really feel it on the lips, even with repeated application. The scent is exactly the same as the originals. And we have shimmer, but it's not going to be super glittery. So really just catches the light a little bit, but you don't really see like glittery lips. So I have to say, I really like these. I've been a little angry with Guerlain recently for some of their decisions, but I'm super happy with these. I love the packaging on these. I always have, because these, the way this is kind of, it's slightly concave here, so it fits perfectly in your hands, has a nice grip to it, and they're sleek, recognizable, easy to find in a handbag. So that's why I love this packaging, and I've never had an issue with the cap falling off either. So I feel like these were they're just so well done. So overall, I think these are fantastic. I'm happy I bought all 6 of them. And yeah, I know I'll be wearing these a ton this year. So let's just summarize everything we took a look at today. We started off with the Tom Ford Olive Smoke eyeshadow quad, which I personally think is fantastic. If you're looking for golden green color stories, you want something on the warmer side, but really with some impact, or something that you can brighten up a little bit. This one's definitely going to be more like medium, deep, dark shades, but you can brighten it and lighten it a little bit by using that gold shade and kind of mixing shades versus just layering them. And I think the formula is fantastic. I think it's a really beautiful palette. Very happy to have purchased this. Then we took a look at the new Chanel Le Volume de Chanel mascara, and I love it. I think it's a really great mascara. There are a few differences that I've picked up from the previous formula, but overall, I think it's a great mascara. So I will be purchasing the blue one as well, and probably the black at some point also, but brown and blue I think I'll be using the most. And then the new YSL blushes, Fantastic formula. Absolutely love these. I really hope YSL decides to bring out some of the other shades here. We don't really have too many like soft neutral shades, which I was really looking forward to, like Rose Haze and so forth. But hopefully those will come out. If a lot of people are asking for those, then hopefully the US will get the distribution for those. But I think the formula is great, and I definitely plan on picking up more in the future. And then we finished up with the new Guerlain Pearly lip balms, the Bee Glow Pearly shades. And I think they're fantastic. I love those. We also spoke about the lip primer from Guerlain, which I think is nice. It adds a bit of blur, adds a little bit of a matte finish if you're using it on its own. Is it a must-have? No, but I do think it's a nice product. So if you're looking for something along those lines, it's a good option. So no regrets purchasing it, but I probably won't repurchase it. I do think I prefer the Sarah Creel primer slightly above the Guerlain. So just personal preference there. And those are my thoughts on these items. So hopefully that was helpful. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you very soon. Have a wonderful day.